Falls Village Trustee regular meeting to order. It's Tuesday, November 9, 2021, and it's 6:07 this evening. We're down here on the Town Hall Lower Theater. We need to approve the minutes for October 26, 2021. I need a motion, please.
Motion to approve the minutes for the trustees meeting of October 26th.
And a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion on the minutes? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, great. Any additions to the agenda for routine administrative matters or no pressing matters that will require ratification at a future meeting?
Nope, nothing for tonight. Thank you.
Next item is public comment. Is there anyone out there? Doesn't look like there's any public, actually, and there's no one in the room. Want to come in? No? Looks like they're all here. Okay, great. Manager's report is next. Yes.
So just as a reminder, we're now in winter parking ban season. So for all of us who get, forget about parking on the street and don't park in our driveways or park in the parking lots, usually we'll go around and remind people, and then pretty soon we'll stop reminding people and start ticketing. So please come into the clerk's office, get your winter parking permit. We do have places where you can put your vehicle that's reasonably convenient so that you don't get a ticket or have a problem. And so far, I think people have been fairly compliant, which is great, but there's always, that last minute problem. So that's basically it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say on the parking passes that people get permits that they get to use the lots. Last year there was some confusion, maybe the year before as well. Some people anticipated an old habit that I believe was being done by the dispatcher about when a storm came that they were going to give you an advance warning on the phone to move your vehicle. That is no longer the case, and I'm just making it clear now because that will come up again. That they put out the sawhorses with the signs in the parking lots to let you know when they're going to be doing that. You do need to keep track of your vehicle. There's not going to be any additional phone or email accommodation at this point unless we change a procedure. And I just want to warn people ahead of time in order to make sure they keep track of that. Thank you. All right, first thing on the agenda is the 10-year study for the Bellows Falls Wastewater Treatment Plant, engineering study.
This is just an item for, we've been working on, as we've talked about, investments that we want to make. We've cleaned up, I think, some of our concerns about our financial position and some of the bonding that we've taken. And I think we're in a better position now to look at our overall operation. Some of the items that, quite frankly, I think the last time we did a fairly large update was now approaching 10 or 15 years in some cases. So some of that equipment is wearing out, some of the grinders, some of the other mechanical equipment. We're also checking on just our flow data. Right now, basically, we're only operating on a normal basis at about 32% of our permitted flow for that facility. So we have capacity, which is good news, but as with any operation, if there are changes or there are changes in the type of material that we're handling, that impacts how the plant operates as well. So what this would do is basically give us a roadmap of some of the major RBCs or other major pieces of that plant that we might have to look at replacing with an estimate of cost and some idea of a useful life so that we could then talk about long-term capital investment in the facility if it's necessary, and then also see if some of that might ultimately be either available for the new infrastructure bill or potentially through ARPA funding or other funding as well. The government is adding a lot of additional federal monies into these types of facilities. So I think it was important that we give you a prioritized list and then have an opportunity to pursue grants and other options before we go back and talk about how it might impact our ratepayers. So that was the purpose of this. The engineering firm is a firm that has been working with us since the plant's been operating, so they have a long history. They have a lot of institutional knowledge, so we're not wasting a lot of time with bringing somebody new up to speed. This will actually be a useful exercise, and I think we'll have a product that comes out of this that will be very helpful to us as we go forward and talk about the impacts on our ratepayers and talk about the impacts on how our facility operates going forward.
August 4, 2021, I want to know if those dollars are going to change based upon the fact that it's now hitting for 3 months
No,
old.
we've talked to them because we started talking to them actually well before that. We started talking back in the spring. So they were aware that we weren't going to act on this until later in the fall.
Okay, so they're good with
So,
that. All right, further questions? Yes, Jigs.
Yeah, one of the questions that I've had for the last year is how effectively, if that's the right word, is our sewer plant operating? You mentioned obviously we don't have a capacity problem, but what we do have, I would like to have some assurances that it's operating as it's supposed to operate.
Do you mean
will this-
efficiency? Efficiency, is that the word you wanted? Like how efficient it is?
I guess efficiency, effectiveness. I mean, doing what, obviously there was a design expectation when we built the place and then expanded it. And I would just like to have some assurance that it's operating as it should.
yeah, I think you're right. Part of the review, we have within our operating permit, we have certain parameters that we have to meet for solids and other aspects of treating the sludge and the waste that we receive. And part of this will look at where we are in relationship to our permit to make sure that we're not running into any of those issues, which I consider to be the operating efficiency types of concerns.
Right.
And then I think the other concern that we just don't have a good handle on, and it's something that we're going to have to start to address, is these PFAS chemicals and these forever chemicals. And the government has made some very initial efforts at sort of giving broad-based regulation as to how they might want to be handled, but it's going to become more and more of an issue for everybody, not just Vermont. This is a national issue, but I think that we also have to make sure that we're in a position where if we do get additional requirements from the federal government, that we're able to handle that with our current design or handle it with a simple change in process or a component, so we're not having to do a major redesign as we go forward. So, I mean, those are the issues that I think we will hit on, as well as, and I'll go back and make sure that if there are any operating efficiency concerns, that we'll make sure that we address that as well in the final report.
Have they, do they have experience with the dryer technology that we're still on the trial there?
Limited, because there's only, right now in the country, there's only 6 of these units currently operating. And I think 2 of them are the units that we have, and the other 4 are different units, are more portable than the ones that we have. So I think most people have a limited, there are other types of dryers from
Right.
other manufacturers. So yes, they have had experience with that, but not necessarily with the Shinshi product.
Other discussion? Look at this end of the table.
I have
You have
a,
something?
yeah, quick, this, where was it here? Scope of services, this, the bullet points with the, items to prioritize from the village staff. Page 1 of 3.
Yep.
That's not already their priority order, is it? They're just saying, evaluate these and see which one should be first, second, and
Yes,
third.
right. They're not in any kind of specific
Okay.
listing. It's just all of these are items that we need to
Look at,
go through
Okay.
and make sure that we have that in that final report.
you know,
The big one, quite frankly, is going to be floodproofing. Since we've done the last major upgrades, we've had a couple of instances where we've had floods.
Right, they, currently, I think they put those boards.
We have the
doorway?
temporary sort of flood barriers in some of the buildings, but not all the buildings. So I think we're going to have to take a hard look at that. So there might be some proposals to make sure that we have all of our critical infrastructure protected, at least to the 100-year flood. I think the 500-year flood, we're all in agreement, is probably absurd to try to flood proof to that level. It's almost impossible. So at that point, I think you just take your lumps and do the best you can.
The,
Yes, yeah,
the price here of 24,000, what, time-wise, what is that going to give us? I mean, we obviously didn't budget specifically for this. We have a little bit of outside contract services in our budgets, but will this take us to the end of this fiscal year, or what are we looking at between now and June 30th of 22?
Well, what I really hope to do, Jigs, is to have them get some information back that will be useful to us in our budget discussions later on in the spring. I think that's really important, that we have a working product, so that for two reasons. First, that when we talk about where we are with rates, that we have an opportunity to look at this and make sure that we're all on the same page with where we are. And then the second piece is, if we have to invest capital or we have to look at other funding sources, it would make sense to do that through our budget process and not miss another entire year, or have to come back to you mid-year and say, okay, can we now appropriate, bond money or other money? I think it would make more sense to incorporate this into our discussion. So that's why I was trying to get this moving at this point.
So you need a motion for this as well.
At this point, I think, yes, since we hadn't budgeted for it and it's a fairly large expenditure, I thought it was important to bring it up, have the conversation, and I would appreciate if we could, make a decision on it so we could make move it forward, if that's the board's position.
I'll make a
Okay.
motion. I move that we authorize the manager to enter into an agreement with Aldridge and Elliott Engineering to do work on our sewer treatment plant with a funding amount of $24,000.
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion on this? Do you have something, Wade?
I just had a quick, kind of, I guess goes with what Jigs was asking, but so how soon would this start? Would they start in on this?
Well, as soon as, if we work this out this evening, I'll call them this week. They'll come out. They've already done some of the preliminary work because they were out over the summer.
Yeah.
So they have a work plan pretty well in place, so we could get this going and get some preliminary reports in 6 or 8 weeks. So, yeah, I think a lot of the basic, background work has already been done, so.
Yeah.
So if we're ready, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, you're all set. Thanks. Okay. Next item, introduce updated state police pursuit policy. We have that in our packet, so. Yeah.
Thank you. So we talked in previous meetings about reviewing our policy. We had LCT originally wanted to back out because he had been working with the state police on this amended policy. So this is something that has been working for a period of time now. I think if you look at it's been revised multiple times since, I guess, 2000, and it goes back to 83, this policy. So I think what's significant in here is that the state police have taken a very aggressive approach in terms of the reasons for actually initiating a pursuit. It's much more narrow than it had been in the past. And so I think they're really narrowing the scope to very, very specific types of actions and activities, so that I think it takes a lot of the discretion out in terms of an individual officer. I think it's a pretty detailed set of circumstances as to when a pursuit can be engaged. And it's very clear in terms of types of things that are not considered reasonable to start a pursuit. So Dave and I have looked at it. He thinks that it tightens up some of the criteria that we have adopted in our policy. Other departments are looking at adopting this as their, crafting it into their local set of rules and regulations. I wanted to bring it to your attention just to get some feedback, and then I think we'll start working towards replacing our current policy with this policy, just strictly from the standpoint of it does reduce some of your liability because it is much more restrictive, which I think is a plus. And I think it also, quite frankly, will reduce dramatically the number of pursuits that we might have going forward, because it will really narrow that range of probable cause and factors. So that's just a little of the background. It's a fairly comprehensive document. And like I said, I think it's at this point, what I'm just looking for the board to do, understand, is that we would like to use this as our basic document and then update ours accordingly. So I'm just looking for any comment or any other additional feedback you might have as we go forward.
The only thing I wondered was whether what I didn't see on here is reasons to have a pursuit did not include speeders. Well, you know what I mean? People who are driving excessive speed, they have to be pursued. So why is that not on here?
I think that they want to limit the scope of activities based on how dangerous some of these pursuits can be, because in many cases they end up in, accidents and other kinds of residual damages. And I think that they purposefully removed some of those types of activities.
But does
Well-
that mean police don't pursue a speeding vehicle? They must.
I thought I read that you could pursue, but if the person doesn't stop or accelerates, you're not to.
Not to
then
continue the
Correct.
pursuit.
Correct.
So the blue lights are on, you pull over or you don't. And if you don't, they're not.
They're not gonna
Right.
chase you out of town or wherever.
But at that
you
point,
head.
what they'll do is they'll probably initiate some sort of radio call to other jurisdictions, be on the lookout type of approach. And whoever that person is at some point is probably going to get somewhere along the line. But yeah, they're not recommending, engaging them and accelerating into a higher.
Okay. Any further comments on the
Nope.
document?
Yeah.
Good.
Well, one thing that I've read this seems to be, in my opinion, to an extent, whether you get into civil or criminal on the, like a habitual offender or someone who's driving under suspension, or specifically somebody who's driving while intoxicated or under the influence of a drug or narcotic or alcohol. You just don't let them drive and kill somebody else on the highway.
Right.
It seems to be an element that I thought, in my opinion, was missing here.
Again, I think
Yeah.
there has been a significant step back in terms of the approach to how they want, this is state police again now, so I'm
Right.
only speaking, how they consider the public and the risk to their officers, and then the risk to, residual kinds of damages. And I think they make some of those kind of considerations away.
I mean, the thing that jumps to mind was, I think, and maybe Wade knows more, but the Essex area there where the cruiser was stolen and back onto the highway and the interstate and head on into a group of youth and killed, I believe, all of them.
Yeah, a couple of
say-
years ago.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I won't say that in my history, I've seen my fair share of impaired drivers where I made the call and they were intoxicated. So I think that should have been one of those alphabetical criteria there.
I think what they're saying is that if the officer goes after them with his lights flashing and they accelerate and are not going to stop, that you don't pursue them.
I get that, but I
Right.
just, we acknowledge that alcohol is a major, and drugs are a major problem for an operator, and then it's not mentioned here.
No, it's a definition scope, and they have narrowed that scope
Yeah, they sure have.
pretty significantly. the kinds of things that are triggering pursuit, fairly significant problems, major league felonies.
Mhm. Yeah, okay. All right, and did you say our police department is adopting this one?
We're going to use this guideline and update ours, and then I think at some point I'll bring it back just so we can see it in our language before
Okay.
we adopt it and train our officers to it. It is a fairly substantial change,
Right.
but
When I read through the police reports for the month of October, it occurred to me I didn't see any for speeding. Although I gotta say, there's a lot of that going on. But that's a different thing about ability to enforce, so. Okay, well, moving on to the next item would be Atkinson School Street Activity Update.
okay, so speaking of speeding, I don't know if any of you have noticed, but we do have the portable speed trailer on Atkinson. Currently, it's registering, I believe was it northbound traffic? And then we'll
Okay.
switch it to the other side, probably next week, and download the data. And so the next week or 10 days, we'll have 2 solid weeks worth of traffic data. And we positioned it purposefully outside of the 200-foot school zone because we wanted to get a sense of the speed of people as they were approaching what is considered the school zone, right, which is 200 feet roughly
From the school, right?
the school. So this will give us actual direction of travel, number of vehicles, and average speeds, and up to, in the 85th percentile speeds. And then there's always outliers whenever you do these types of speed studies. The secondary effect of it does flash and show you what your speed is. So hopefully it does help to remind drivers that, you're in a school zone and you're in a place where you need to pay attention because there are pedestrians and kids and dogs and lots of activities around schools, and they're not always paying attention or as aware of what's going on as they could be. And so it's really incumbent on the drivers to be more vigilant in those places. So that's part of what we've been doing. When we have availability, which is, I could not guarantee the school every day, and we had a phone call. I think Deb was on that call that day as well.
Yep.
With the school about various activities we could pursue. We did step up enforcement, more specifically in the afternoon and the morning, at the request of the school. And then at the next select board meeting, we will be pursuing some grant funding to look at all of the traffic at that intersection for potential improvements through a grant program, as well as looking at the traffic circulation and parking issues that are around the schools, because quite frankly, when those schools were built and designed, they were not built and designed for the number of people that come by bus or that come by vehicle, the number of people that park. They were designed as walking schools, and they were sort of laid out accordingly. And now we don't have as many walkers, we have more vehicles, and we have a different type of circulation. So we're hopeful that working with that, if we get the grant, we'll be able to do some design alternatives. It'll also impact that intersection as well. And then come up with some proposals that might improve safety as we go forward. So
Is it going to be there longer than 2 weeks? Or
we're going to do the initial
collecting
2
data?
weeks, and then I'll probably do it again later on in the spring, just because once you get into the real winter weather, it gets a little sketchy to try to get real good data. Because if you
Yeah.
have a bad weather day, it's going to automatically slow down your cars, and everybody's going to say, oh, look, you don't have a speeding problem here. People are going 15 miles an hour. Because there was, 6 inches of snow on the ground or some
Right,
other,
yeah.
or ice. So we'll come back and do some more in the spring.
Because it does act as some form of calming device, which is what we don't have enough of on that street.
And that might
that
be one of the
intersection.
things that we do as an
Yeah.
interim measure, right? I mean, those units are about $3,000 a piece.
Are we borrowing it at this point? We don't own one, do we?
The town owns that one.
The town does, okay.
And we just put it on that modified trailer.
And
They're
you
really
move it
supposed to go on
around.
a pole.
Okay.
But-
Got it.
Oh, okay. I was gonna ask who's doing the study.
So
So
we
we
are,
are.
yes.
It's our
didn't know if it
town
was-
trailer and they're doing the
Yes.
study.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering if that's the one that I've seen in Saxon's River.
No,
Times
they have a
faster.
separate setup.
That's a different one.
And then we'll be using this periodically in the town as well, because we've been getting complaints. So the good
Yeah.
part of this is I can move it around. And then I just need a USB cable and I can download the material right
Mhm.
onto a computer. So
Okay, great.
yeah, it's pretty useful. And more than likely, I'll probably propose that we get a couple more, especially the ones, that trailer cost us, it's really a trailer for a Ski-Doo. And I think the trailer cost me $399. I think
Yeah.
the one that they wanted to specify from the company was $1,500.
Of course.
So, our guys are smart. They just rigged up a signpost and it works perfectly.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
so we might get a couple more of those because they're
Good.
easy to move around. They just put it on the back of the pickup truck and go.
Yeah.
It's great.
Any further questions, Scott, about this? Yes.
The, one of the things that was discussed at the school board was, as at that intersection now, there is a crosswalk on both the north and south side
Mhm.
of the intersection. And
Yeah.
I know grants are great and doing the studies are all great, but it just makes a whole lot of sense to me to eliminate one of those crosswalks. And I would hope that we don't have to wait for a study to be done to do that. I mean, I don't know how complicated it is, whether you just black out the lines that are there
I
on
would
one
think so
side
if
and,
we can. I mean, I know that there are a number of middle schoolers who are walking down and they cross, so some of them cross over to go get their brother or sister, whatever,
Right.
at the elementary. So so I'd assume that they're using, that's my assumption. I've seen it happen otherwise, but
North
that they're
side.
using
they're
that,
using the north
the
side.
north side to cross.
So they would have, the middle school would have to work with the kids to
Right.
get them to cross
Mm-hmm.
at the school to the
Mhm.
other side, to the south side of School Street.
And they could do that. They've got, you've got the additional safe routes to school,
Yeah.
material there. You've got the lights and all that other
Right.
stuff. So that's
Yeah.
possible.
What is the harm is
Of
to
leaving it?
having two crosswalks there? I've seen that.
Well,
a safety measure.
it's difficult for the crossing guard
Yeah,
to deal with both of the
At the same time.
at the same time.
Yeah.
I just hate to see kids taking the initiative. Okay, well, it's quicker to here than to walk over to there.
Well, it's a
There's that.
safety issue, so it's,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah, we
Uh,
didn't commit to anything specific to the
Right.
school. We said, let's get some data and let's work on it. We'll get back together. But that's something that's been brought up. I'm
Mhm.
sure we'll get
I mean,
into it
Right.
in more
To be honest
detail.
with you, I know traffic signals, i.e. stop going green lights, are expensive, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of people there that I've seen that don't even stop. I haven't seen them hit the brake lights either.
They go right through the stop
Yeah,
sign.
they go right through the stop sign.
Yeah. Yeah, I was told about that, one of those last Tuesday, where a school bus came out to the end of the extension. They went to move through the intersection. They stopped just in time because someone going from south to heading north
Mm.
went right through. They never even touched the brake.
That's been a complaint that I've heard, but also, we've heard complaints, and being on a board previously, we did look into, and it was over 150,000, I believe, to get a street light at this end of the Arch Bridge. I'd almost say, and it probably doesn't meet National Traffic Safety Code other than construction. But, see if they want to sell that system at the end of this bridge and just leave it there.
Yeah,
They're temporary. There's temporary signal.
yeah, the temporary signal.
I mean, it's working.
Yeah.
But yeah, so study will give you some more.
Yes. So
data
we'll keep
on
working
that.
on it. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of factors into that whole area.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, not like you haven't got anything else to do, but there aren't already some previous studies done on that collector on Route 5
There
already.
have been, but they didn't like where they put the traffic. They didn't like where they put the actual collectors because they
Yeah.
claimed they were too far from the intersection, so they weren't capturing the true.
The data.
If I remember correctly,
Right.
when a certain individual came to this community, that was one of the areas, along with right out here, where this individual had talked or just about proposed a roundabout.
Mhm.
I
Oh,
thought that's
there?
not enough real estate there.
No, just
Yeah.
thinking.
Boy, that'd be a tight roundabout.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
it
yeah.
With all
would.
the trucks that
Woo.
come through, that
Well,
would
it's
be
similar to the what you have down on the
Oof.
Court Street by the Cheshire Medical or Cheshire Hospital in Keene.
Oh, God, yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, right there. It's pretty
mean,
tight.
You got
That's
the
a
real
very
estate to
tight-
do it, I think, but I mean,
that'd be a tough one.
not to mention a plow issue, yeah.
No, yeah.
Plow and tractor
Yeah,
trailer.
you know how much they love that.
Mm.
Okay, well, it's still
Speaking of
in
bridges.
progress. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now we move on to the bridge updates on Arch Bridge restoration, Depot Bridge, boring, Canal Street.
So I've been speaking to the engineer in charge of the Arch Bridge project, and I've been a little bit annoyed at their lack of attention to our concerns since the July storms that closed Route 12 in New Hampshire, right? So we lost our truck detour. We've had a significant amount of additional traffic through the village center, through our roads. And I've said, when the original agreements were made, the restoration was made on the assumption that the trucks were going to be detoured for the the balance of this project. Well, that hasn't happened. In fact, we probably have more trucks now
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
of the
well-
fact that Route 12 is closed.
Route 12, yeah.
And so, we've lost pavement markings. You can see where there's been decline in the pavement itself. And so I've said, listen, I don't care what the previous restoration agreement said. You guys need to come in and do an overlay and re-stripe. And, that's just the bottom line. So we're arguing. So
Mm.
if I approach them and say, okay, maybe you just leave the traffic signals and we'll call it a day, maybe that's an option. But at the
There's a
moment,
swap. Yeah, swap off. Yeah.
we're in a little bit of an argument because I don't feel that that they're adequately restoring the damages that have been done since
Yeah.
this project started.
I agree. I'm
So,
being up in that neck of the woods, I mean, I've heard conversations from some people that school buses might end up crossing from over there to here to pick up the interstate at
jeez.
exit 6.
yeah, they have a long-term problem over there.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and nobody anticipated it, and it's
Of course
nobody
not.
to blame. But there are impacts, and as I've said, all I'm asking for is restore it back
Yeah.
to where
Yeah.
it should have been, if it
Right.
had been a normal project. So it's not
If
normal,
Their
so,
traffic is abusing our state.
yes.
We need some kind of comeuppance for that.
Yeah, because our taxpayers end up then
Right.
covering the bill for that,
Right.
right? Because
Sure.
I've got to pay for new pavement marking, we've got to pay for new, that street's going to have to be restored, so. Anyway, to be determined, I'll let you know how that conversation, it's not going well, but it's a long conversation,
Yeah, did you have a question, Wade?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify who you're, for lack of a better term, who you're arguing with.
Ron Guyette, who's the engineer in charge from the New Hampshire side.
From, so the
Oh, yeah, 'cause
department,
this isn't-
DOT from New Hampshire.
Yeah, this
Right,
is a New
yeah.
Hampshire project.
Right, okay.
We have a Vermont engineer,
I
but
didn't know if it was also
Vermont-
some of the folks that doing the work up there.
no. I mean, it's just really Vermont or not, or New Hampshire DOT should be on the hook for additional restoration. That's
Mhm.
really what should be happening here. So we might have to get, we'll see how far we want to push. But the other process that, they were originally supposed to be done by October 30th. Well, we
Nice.
missed that date, which
On to
is
the
not
last
unusual.
piece, yeah.
He claims that they're going to be done by November 30th.
They might. It looks like they're
Looks like they might.
closer, yeah.
Maybe miss that by a little bit, but possibly mid-December. But anyway, so
I think they're trying to race before the asphalt plant closes.
Yeah.
sometimes they close right around Thanksgiving or the
Thanksgiving,
week
yeah.
week of. So I'm sure that they're pushing, but that's why I'm not so sure he's going to make it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
so be that as it may, there's still lots of conversation to go on with that. On the Depot Bridge side, people will notice next week they'll have some boring contractors in town. There's a couple locations where they have to do some additional borings on the new alignment just to test on some of the soils to make
Okay.
sure that they don't have any other issues. So they'll be doing borings in November, maybe a little bit in the beginning of December. They're still in conceptual design, but we should have plans sometime in the beginning of 2022. And then they will then go through and do final plans probably by the middle of the year or the end of the year in 22. They're very squirrely about exact dates. And then you'll start to see some actual utility work and construction in 2024. And the actual bridge construction will probably start in the spring of 25. So we have a ways to go, which is actually okay because the Bellows Falls Garage project, if they get good bids and they don't run into any more environmental or other significant problems, should be done by then.
Okay, so when are
So-
they supposed to start? I thought it
They
was
are-
December.
They are still, I think this week as their proposals are due from contractors, and then they hope to award in December and
Okay.
potentially start in January.
Okay,
And, again, if they get crazy bids, who knows? So,
question about traffic for next week, John Canal Street. How is that going to be handled?
traffic will not be, it will not shut down the street. It will be impacted, but it will not be shut down. So they will still be able to get cars through. Trucks might have a little bit more difficult.
I want to make sure the public hears that.
Yes.
They're concerned. So as it is difficult enough when you have to put utility down there to do work and stuff, and it blocks the entire end of the street.
Yeah.
Nothing you can do.
The real pain, so to speak, won't really start until 2024 when they actually start with the, because a lot of that construction is going to be in the Canal Street right away. So
Yeah.
we'll make sure we give people plenty of time and notice as that progresses. And in fact, we'll probably end up having a public information meeting just to show where things
be good.
are with the concept and the layouts and how things are going to, how things are going to line up so people can comment or at least have some understanding of it.
Mhm.
So that's what's going on with that project. And we still, at this point, don't have any additional information. Since you did pass a resolution, which I appreciate on the Bellus Bridge, we have sent that plus what the town passed to all of our federal contacts to say, now that we've passed an infrastructure bill, let's make sure, there was an additional, I think, $225 million in just Vermont funding. I don't know what New Hampshire ended up getting, but I would hope that they could find enough money to help us finally get this bridge fully funded and, in that 10-year in that 10-year plan, so that we would feel more confident that it will actually be a real project. So we'll see how that develops.
Do we know when the DOT is supposed to have a final on their draft? That they're still doing a listening tour, right? They're
Yes.
talking to communities about the
Right.
plan.
So we have submitted we submitted both of our resolutions into the public comment section. So we'll probably, my guess is they'll come back sometime over the winter, maybe towards early spring, with their final document.
Okay.
And we'll see where we are at that point.
Any questions from anyone on these subjects? All right, moving on, we head to the financial update.
So
And
we have updated numbers here. So for those of you who don't know, also, we'll just sort of combine the next two items. This is Alyssa Harlow. She's our new finance director. She's been on board now for a little over a week. So she's still figuring out keys to what and what's hidden where. But she doesn't have much time to relax because the auditors are coming on the 15th. so she has to learn quickly. But we did run this just to give you some updated numbers to have something to look at.
Yeah,
I have a few
yeah,
questions.
I had
but,
some too. So
Sure.
Go ahead, Jigs.
For the general fund, under miscellaneous income,
Yeah.
was that the settlement, or that have anything to do with the settlement, or
The 29,472.
Mhm.
and the 19,157?
Well, I know the 19 is that's the public safety building repairs from the lightning claim. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
The 29 I'll have to look into. I don't recall exactly what's in that number.
Right, because I was under the impression that we were taking things out of there and putting them where they belonged. So usually that number's quite sizable. That's all. So,
Okay, so you'll
Yeah,
check on
I'll
that.
look into see
Please.
what's behind that one.
Okay.
I don't recall.
The, a little bit further down, the Governor's Highway Safety, is that still on hold, or is that going to be?
I talked to Dave about that. They have money, so they for a while had told people with COVID that they were not going to support some of the activity. And now I've been told that they have been given permission to start to use some of those monies for some of their DUI enforcements and their other enforcements. So we should see some of that coming shortly. So we'll be able to spend most of that before we end out the fiscal year.
Okay.
Okay. On the second page, under the village manager, the EA to the manager.
Mhm.
Two questions. What is that? And is it to be allocated?
That is right. That was part of when Ally was here, that we were splitting her between the clerk and my office. That was part of that split, and I don't believe it's been allocated.
So that number will not get any bigger though, will it?
No, because I don't have anybody in the position
Right.
right now.
Got it.
Because
Correct.
that's, compared to our budget, that's a big number. And
Yeah, I don't think it's been allocated, Jigs. I think
okay.
it's.
So that was truly the executive assistant.
Right.
It was
Okay.
It was a
part-time.
portion of that, right, those
Right.
hours.
Okay.
Correct.
The
But
'cause
I'll double check that allocation.
yeah. Okay.
I'm assuming it's
All
in,
right.
assuming it's in the water and the wastewater too, so.
Yeah, that's the finance director on the top of the next page.
Mhm.
Is that that reflects the final payments to our former manager?
To our former employee, correct.
Mhm.
So that employment is over.
That's
We are-
over.
We're
And
done. And
now
so,
that we have Alyssa,
right,
then okay,
yep,
all right. And then, of course, the other professional services is the NIMRIC support.
that's part of it, correct.
And again, is that allocated?
I have not allocated NEMRIC yet, because we're still doing that, so at some point I will allocate that, because we still have some support from Cynthia.
Okay. At the bottom of that page, under the employee benefits,
Yes,
is that correct? The health insurance is no charges, or just the other benefit lines seem to be tracking to the budget, but that one
That one has nothing in it.
stood out.
yeah, I'll
So-
check on that one, Jix, because it might be, that might be another allocation concern. Right,
Okay,
yep,
all right. On the third, page 4,
mhm,
down under public safety. Well, no, before,
That's fine, yeah.
buildings and, under insurance, buildings and contents. We're at 73% of the budget. And, normally we pay premiums twice a year. So I was just curious as to what's going on in that account.
when we did some of our updates on our property and liability, we went back through some of the valuations and some of the facilities, and they had some old valuations that we took out in a couple of facilities that were not insured anymore. So I think it actually is going to drop.
Yeah, because it's always been kind of a mystery, because when I think of the village buildings, I think of the police and fire facility, which of course is under the police and fire. And the buildings under this account, my understanding was the shed up on the terrace that we leased to the
To the town.
Mm.
and
The Blake Street garage?
Mhm.
Lake Street Garage.
Yep.
So again, that number just sort of jumps out as to
Mhm.
what that would that would do. And then at the end of the page, the bottom of the page, under the public safety building, for some reason, we're blowing through the janitorial services.
Yeah, that's true.
We're halfway, we're a third of the way through the year, and we're halfway through the budget on the janitorial. I don't know what is causing that, but
I'll double check his numbers because it's pretty much, we haven't really changed anything from what I remember. So,
Well, I know that during COVID, there were concerns about additional cleanings and sterilization and all that sort of thing going on. I don't know if it's having any impact in this budget
well,
from July
that
1st.
That could be
Yeah.
I don't know.
And they might level off. I'm not sure.
right. Yeah, I have to look at it. I just don't, top of my head, Jigs, I don't remember any changes in service, but I'll look into it.
Okay. And that's it. That's my comments for the,
Okay.
I could go on and on. I'm not going to. I'm not going to.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are ones that need to be looked at and
Get
allocated.
back to you on those.
I had a number of areas, some additionals, and areas that I'm concerned that with approximately 8 months left, we have a number of areas that, percentage-wise, will probably run over budget. Some of those, I think, overtime in one of our departments. Not sure which one right
Well,
now.
the police, obviously the police department,
Yeah,
we're almost on budget with, because of we're 2 officers short, but we're using a lot of overtime
yep,
coverage.
yeah, and we're gonna run over on that, so.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well, we'll have some
hopefully we
FEMA
can-
reimbursement too, though. so
ameliorate with- yeah, and
might-
there's a possibility
yeah,
for
there's
that too as
some-
well.
Yeah, there's some,
It's just something we don't see here
right.
on this.
It won't reflect, in fact, we don't meet with them until 17th for our
Right.
first.
Yeah,
And so hopefully we'll see some of that sort of level out.
Offset.
Right,
Yeah.
offset.
I think the biggest concern would be in the general fund specifically,
Mhm.
our speculation on income. There are a lot of areas where we're seeing nothing or next to nothing. So we're overestimating that and relying upon those numbers to come in when perhaps we should be more frugal about expecting, for instance, blue light police services and, things like that. We're not getting there. Like parking fines is at $315. We're clearly not either doing enough fining or we shouldn't speculate it that high in a future year, just because we need to we have try to get closer to real numbers that are actually happening. And if we say we put it down and we raised more than that, well, then we understand that there's a fluctuation. But there are certain things like, for instance, things that are done in the police services. We don't even do blue light services on the highway, and I don't think we've done any of that in years.
Hmm.
And yet we still have some booking there for it, I believe. So there are some things that we could be a little more frugal on when we actually go to budgeting, and that's what I'm thinking. I was thinking forward to the
Sure.
FY23.
Yeah.
So,
And I think we do have some money coming back from the state on our tickets. We do these sort of batch.
yeah, and it's
Reviews and
court's
it
taking
takes-
time anyway.
yeah.
So
So I think there is some additional money coming, so that 6% will change once we get that check. But how dramatically it'll change, I don't have a number. I don't know what
I
they're
know.
looking at the moment.
The winter parking permit
yeah, let's
number is pretty light. Hopefully it's going to
that include because
Gonna,
now it's just the beginning of November. So
jump up in the
When you
next
see the
2
first
months.
snow, all of a sudden people start
all of a sudden they
to,
rush to get a
"Oops."
ticket.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it would be, and at some point, it would be great if we could actually do online stuff.
Right.
People every year ask the same thing: can I purchase this online? And then just have someone pop it in the mail or whatever. You charge the extra 55 cents for the
Well,
for the mailing, but to get people want a more automated way to pay their tickets, to
Right.
get their permits, things like that. We're still not there yet.
it's kind of a double whammy if we're nice enough not to ticket these cars for parking on the street, and they're not going in and buying their permit,
Mm.
then we're losing on both counts.
Mhm.
And
And I know we still have the issue of dealing with credit card interest, the amount of money that the village has
Yes.
to pay, for, like, say, water and sewer, the people use their credit cards for those
I would hope
fees, which
that's
were
been-
underestimated, well, apparently were underestimated, so we weren't reclaiming the actual dollar, I believe. So I'm assuming that that's being worked on.
Well, one of the things that Alyssa's going to look at is there are other systems that are available that I think are better for the types of work that we're doing.
Mhm.
So we're still trying to piece that together.
I understand, it's a work in progress, so. I did want to ask, did you happen to bring down the warrants?
No, but I can go get them. I forgot. So excited that Alyssa was here.
Oh, I'm just saying, we always miss on that because,
I know.
Don't leave yet.
Yeah.
don't leave yet,
All
yeah.
right.
Okay.
Are you still got some more finance
The
stuff?
water, on the water fund,
Uh-huh.
my understanding on North Westminster, which again shows 0, I know the bills have gone out.
Yes.
It was my understanding, talking to Cynthia, that was, we accrued revenue on those items, and we were not on a cash basis. And so I was a little bit surprised that, again, both in the water and the sewer for Westminster, we're showing no revenue yet this
Mhm.
year. So that reminds me, we want to, for our next meeting, we ought to get an update on that North Westminster, or the
we'll put it
Westminster
on for the
agreement.
20.
Right,
23rd.
Gageville, or whatever
Yeah.
we're calling it,
Yeah.
yep.
So that's the
Mhm.
one big question there. Yeah, and then on page 3 of the water fund, at the top of the page, we show other professional services of $4,228, nothing budgeted. And I was curious as to what,
I believe that is for our, when we work with the auditor and they do our fixed assets inventory and updates and valuations. I think that's part of where that gets charged to.
but that should be part of the audit.
It's separate from the audit because they do it as a separate agreement. It's not an audit function. It's actually a separate service.
Well, it seemed to be all landing on the water fund here, so.
Yeah, the other professional services, what do we have here? Trying
So,
to see where they are.
but anyway, we've got
Right.
engineering services, maintenance services, other professional services, which is a new one because we didn't have it budgeted, legal services, audit and financial. So,
Right, but
Anyway.
you looked at page 3 of 8, right, which shows other
3 of
professional
9,
services
7.
are at 5,750. They're 1,150% over budget
where's
in the
that?
general fund. Page 3 of 8.
We were in the water fund. You're back in the general fund? Hang
Yeah,
on.
I'm just saying, those are the same lines. They're supposed to be set. Aren't they split, split? Is it 50, 15 and 15
we don't
in
have
water
any.
and wastewater? Page 3 at the top.
The 5750. I'd have to
Yeah,
go
50
back and see what's in
But
that.
it's finance director, page 3.
No, the last one on the top bar. It's
Other professional services.
60.02, 3,400, 64.02, other professional services. We allocated 50, we budgeted $500, there's 5750
A lot of
spent.
Oh,
that-
that's the NIMRIC.
A lot of that is NEMRIC.
That's NIMRIC.
And that is NIMRIC, but
Yeah.
shouldn't that
That
be
hasn't been
what?
allocated.
Hasn't been allocated.
It hasn't been
correct.
allocated. yet.
Right, it hasn't been allocated, but other professional services in water, shouldn't that also be
But it's just-
SISI as well?
It
It
needs
No.
to be
I
explained.
mean, if
It
we
just
do the
doesn't-
Yeah.
breakdown,
It-
right.
It just
Yeah.
doesn't.
Okay.
just
But
doesn't-
I'll find out what specifically is in that number. I think it's for the fixed asset inventory, but I'll double check that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
That was an RHR Smith.
Now
deal.
my pages are all messed up. Okay, all right, go on, Jake, 'cause you had,
Okay, then, based on the exhibit we got last meeting, on page 4, it appears that our debt service for the year is done. We had budgeted 257. We've paid 182, and that was the number that was on our sheet. Now, the flip side is that we're probably not going to get revenue. It shows on the first page.
For,
Well, we had, 2001 bond interest grant, SCADA interest. There was 37,000, 11,000. Those might be offsets to that. This is just more of a comment. That
right,
from the schedule you gave us,
right, because.
that's it for the year.
Yeah, because a lot of that was part of that whole negative interest and they redid all those bonds.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Okay. And then on the sewer fund, the sewer use North Westminster,
mhm.
my understanding is that there should be accrual of revenue there, as we do with the other items.
Yeah, get it 0. So
Now here we have this other professional services on page 7.
Excuse me.
And we had budgeted for this account 2,500, and that's another 4,225.
yeah, that one had budget.
And but of course we're way over budget on that. And again, I didn't think this asset review by the auditor, is that done like every so often?
I think we do it every 2 years. And that's, they keep it up in terms of, I think the bond.
Because
the
we
bonding
don't budget
agencies-
for that, or I mean, if
No, but I think
it's,
the bonding agencies require it because they want to know that, they have something for collateralization for their.
And it's accurate, and that it's
Correct,
accurate.
and that
right.
it's been looked at by a third party. I just didn't put a number on a piece of paper and say we're good.
but I would definitely put it under audit services.
We could consolidate that if it makes
And,
sense. We do it separate because it's a separate bill and a separate process. That's,
because obviously the general fund doesn't get hit with that because it has no assets.
Mhm.
But,
I guess I was on the understanding, I thought it was the VLCT that handled, they handle the insurance. I thought they also make sure that we're accurate on what we're being insured for. But
on property, general liability, they will take, periodically they'll come out and they'll look and they'll do some adjustments, but for the most part, they'll take whatever we provide. The third party stuff like this is much more detailed.
Mhm.
And it
Right.
really is more for the bonding agencies than for insurance. So,
the
we
security
didn't get
blanket.
balance
Yeah.
sheets, and I was so looking forward to seeing the.
I wanted to save something for Thanksgiving.
due front.
You can't have turkey and stuffing
The
and
due
mashed
from-
potatoes all at the same time. That's no fun.
Why not?
So
Now, see, Alyssa, this is what you got to look forward to.
I know, I'm sorry.
No, I mean the
apologize.
question.
We'll
We'll be
make
looking
sure.
for you. We'll be looking to you for the answers to these questions.
Yeah, we will have the balance sheets for your next meeting.
Okay, so I'll put them. Anyone else have any questions for?
I just had a quick question.
Yep, go
kinda.
ahead.
Any news on the sale of the cruiser?
It's done, isn't it?
The money is there with the auctioneer, but they have not contacted us yet in terms of when they want to actually come and do the deed and pick up the vehicle.
So
So
it has been sold.
it
Okay.
has been sold.
Oh, nice.
Can we know what it was sold for?
The number I gave, I think was 7,700.
That's right,
70 Yeah.
Really?
I think I gave it to you the last time.
Better than
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah,
Really?
it's a decent number.
Wow.
So, but they have not contacted us yet to do the
Stephanie,
transaction.
you didn't buy it, did you?
No, the proud owner of.
He was probably goosing the number, raising his paddle.
Yeah, well, you go, I have done that, I'm just saying. I'm not gonna lie, I have done that, but not on that
A
one.
mystery bidder kept on coming in $1 over. Yeah.
So that should be gone soon then.
Yes,
hopefully.
yes.
It's
Nice.
actually better than the first round.
Yeah,
It actually came in, yeah,
Yeah.
I think the
Yeah,
inventory
definitely.
is really becoming a real issue.
Yeah.
we have
Huh.
metal and delivery of vehicles, buying new cruisers and stuff like that. Yeah, you're talking months down the road.
It's the chips, apparently. They
Yeah.
can,
Mm.
stuff is sitting because they can't finish it. It's bizarre.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Our last item on here is a discussion of the 12/14 meeting date change.
Yeah, I would, trying to wedge in with the auditors in town and then trying to finish off the town budget meetings. It was going to get into too many, we weren't going to be able to get through everything. So what I was hoping is we could move that meeting potentially to the 28th so that we'd still have two meetings, but it would just be later in the month.
Be moved down.
It'd be moved
Okay,
out.
let's see.
Because by then I think we'll have adopted the town budget. We'll have, we'll be able to then,
So our first meeting would typically be the 7th.
No,
Isn't it?
it would be the 14th.
No, we have it's the second, oh, the second Tuesday, yeah, 14.
right.
So we're gonna do the 21st and the 28th? Is that what you're looking at?
That would be potentially,
In the week before Christmas and the
so
week
the first
after.
Tuesday I'm looking at, right, is the 7th. So we would end up doing, we would end up doing, because right, the trustees are the first, so we would end up doing probably the 14th and the 28th.
Select board's the first, so.
Right.
So
Those are our, the 14th and 28th are our
Our
dates.
regular
Yeah.
dates, right,
Yeah, so you don't want to do the 14th, right?
right, because I'm probably gonna need that, so I was hoping that we could move that.
So are you moving a date with this select board too?
We probably are adding, because we're trying to get it done before. The way
Maybe
the
we
cal-
should meet the 21st and that be the only meeting we
That-
have.
Of the month? We
That's
could,
what I
if
was-
we
that's
can,
what I was
if we
gonna
don't
say.
have anything
That's
urgent to
possible,
do.
we could do that.
Can we do
And we're
that?
letting,
Yeah.
as long as we're letting people
Just-
know in advance
just
that
do
we
it
would only
one
have one
time.
meeting
Yeah.
in December.
Okay, that
We
would
need
actually
recovery
work.
time from the 25th, is that the deal?
It's
This
prep.
is on a
he needs-
Saturday?
Well, it's just,
Yeah, I hear you.
That would
you
actually
know, to
work.
have them the 21st and the 28th
Right.
What do you
makes no
think?
sense. And
You guys agree with
I
that?
agree with the 12,
single
21
meeting
if
and
Go
that works.
shopping after Christmas.
Going shopping, Black Friday, yeah, right. Yeah, the first time I ever did this,
You go
Black
shopping
Friday
anymore.
stuff,
Don't you shop?
the first time I ever did this was the first Black Friday I ever participated in was the year of the fire.
Oh, Lord.
So I bought brand new TV, brand this, brand that, right after Thanksgiving, and the following month, within 2 weeks, I lost
burned
it
up.
all,
Oh,
so.
Lord.
It's like, makes me think, I guess I'm not doing that anymore. One time and I'm done. So, all right, so
That
in
would
Dec-
actually be helpful if we could move that to the 21st.
so
I
in
think we could work
December,
with that.
I believe we don't need a motion for this. We just agree that December 21st will be our only meeting in the month of December.
That would be great.
Same time?
Yeah,
So
same
nothing-
bat
just-
channel,
just-
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
same station.
Yeah. Unless there's no heat, in which case Scott sits here on Zoom
Right.
and we're all on Zoom. Scott sits here and we're all on Zoom.
Right.
We'll figure it out. All right, reviewing agenda items for the next meeting. We've already got some information, update on North Westminster,
Yep.
balance sheets. What else will we put on there? I don't know. What other things you might have,
What
Scott?
about the dryer? I mean, we've got,
We might have some information. to
We
just
should have an
on that.
update on that.
Okay.
Rob was working on a couple of things that we probably could do
Okay.
an update at that meeting. That would
Alright.
probably be timely.
because right now, our agreement with RMI is through December 31st, right?
Correct.
So
Yep.
We
So we-
should,
Definitely do an update.
Mhm. Okay, that sounds good. So there's 3 items on there right now. Review agenda items for joint board meeting, which is going to be November 29th. What is on
Right.
there?
Well, we were going to talk about the tax sale
Yep,
from the last time. Cannabis, I think, came up again.
Yep.
So I suppose we'll be talking about that.
CCB board, yep.
Right.
Exactly.
Those were the two primary things I think that we had.
the 29th is a Monday. Isn't it the 30th? Thought it was a Tuesday, the 30th.
We're in November for that meeting, right?
I
What?
had down November 30th for,
Yeah,
Oh,
29th.
It should be the 30th. It's that
Oh,
Tuesday. It's
So
not,
it's actually, yeah.
yeah,
So
it's that
actually-
Tuesday, Jigs.
that
You're
Tuesday,
you're
so-
correct.
November 30th.
So it's the 30th, not
Yeah,
the
it's that
29th.
Tuesday.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, that's fine. Also,
I have one item
Yeah.
for the joint
yeah,
board.
go ahead.
It's not really a village thing per se, but I'd like to put on there to speak to, because you'll be in the budgets for cemetery maintenance.
Right? You want to talk about that?
Yeah,
When is
briefly.
when is the select board's budget finalized? So will the 30th be a time before that?
There,
Or the-
not for the joint board, it won't be done. It won't be done
Oh, good.
until
That's what I'm asking.
December, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever hear back on the fire question?
Because
No, nothing yet.
nothing yet.
Mm.
Oh,
You brought that up at a joint meeting, didn't you?
It came up at the last joint meeting.
Yeah, and you talked about
yeah,
it.
no, their work, that's in the pipeline.
It's in the works.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
being worked
Yeah,
on.
it's
Okay,
in
that's
the
a good
pipeline.
thing. So maybe not this joint
I'm not
board
sure
meeting,
it'll be
another
done by this one, but we'll
Yeah,
maybe
no
have an
problem.
update. I don't think it'll be resolved, but we'll have an
one.
update.
And did you want to talk about at the joint board meeting about the ambulance consideration?
We should probably talk about it.
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah.
Just to let folks know, I've gotten a lot of phone calls. I don't know how many Scott's gotten, but concerns about service time and also service. What kind of performance we're getting. And we are taxpayers of the town, right? So although we don't direct the money, we should be able to have something to say to the select board if we feel that it's needed. And Scott has felt that there has been something that we need to do. We've been doing the same old for, how long has it been now? 9 years? 10 years? The ambulance service.
You gotta keep in mind that the board just signed, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, out of memory, just signed about 2 years ago, a 5-year contract, if I remember correctly.
No, we're actually in a 6-month renewal, so
Oh,
we're
we
sort
are?
of going in.
I'm sorry.
So
Okay,
we're
my
probably at a
apologies.
point
So
where
there
we
is an
could
opportunity.
look at options, and like all options, you can, there's a Chinese menu of different
Right.
alternatives, so.
What I would suggest then would be that both boards ought to be provided with a copy of the current contract, because there's some misconceptions. I'm not defending or knocking. I'm saying there are some misconceptions that people have as far as what's provided for service
Mm,
as to what's in writing in the contract.
Right,
Oh, yeah.
On deck, et cetera.
right.
So,
Mhm.
My concern would be more like, have we ever seen a performance evaluation? Have we ever seen a tracking like we do for our police and fire? We get a list every month of
Right.
what calls they go out on and what they do, and maybe it might include things like on an ambulance case, maybe a response time or something like that. We've never seen that, and I believe last time I saw the contract, there was an opportunity for something like that, but it never been delivered, and I would like to see that myself. But then again, I'm not a select board member. I'm just, peeking in from the outside, and as a taxpayer, I'm concerned
Well,
about
yeah,
what's going
there
on.
was questions, for example, one time about prenatal care or something like that. That wasn't, when it was Rose.
That was an option?
When it, well, there was some type of like, what do they call it? PD care or PD medical care.
Okay,
I forget the term. I've been long years since I did ambulance stuff, but there was one board member that said, hey, and then there was some, another thing that was discussed a lot at the time was paramedic service. Well, we don't pay for paramedic service, but I was told at the time, majority of the time, there's paramedics not good. So you're getting a benefit that you're not paying for. But if you're gonna come along and assist a specific type of service or an increased level of care,
Mhm.
Somebody's gonna have to pay for it.
Mhm.
So,
okay. All right, so that's another item. And
Yep.
so if we move on, we would get to, oh, look, review the orders, bills, and warrants, which we don't have.
Which we could get.
We'll do it next time.
Yeah, we can grab them.
And we keep saying that. I'm just saying. We could go through other business, and then you get back down here. I'll ask you if you've got any.
No, I'm good.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So wait, do you have any other business?
No, I'd just like to, I didn't know till tonight that we had a new director on board for finance, and welcome her and wish her the best of luck.
Thanks.
I have a couple of items.
Uh-oh, here we go.
First of all, I've attended some of the sporting events at the high school recently, and I'm not here to give kudos to the teams, although they've done a wonderful job. But I am what I do want to give a kudo to is Chief McGinnis, and I'm sure he has some of his guys that help out, but they display the flag on the ladder truck, and it's really quite impressive to see that, and I think it wouldn't be there if it wasn't the initiative wasn't there, and so I pass on kudos for that. The other kudos is the Historical Commission. I was rather critical of them at the last meeting when I heard that the select board had actually voted money to capture some things from the 66 Atkinson Street. I read in the paper today that they've done some fundraising, and apparently they are going to attempt to take that window out of the building. There'll be no taxpayer money involved. It will not interfere with the raising of the building, I guess.
No.
And so I wanted to give them a shout out and say good work, and that's the way it should be paid for that type of thing. So anyway, thank you.
Great. Steph? Yeah. Yes. Yes. You'll have your work cut out for us, just getting us into shape too. So there's that. And I know that BIFTA and the chamber are working on a number of items for the month of for the end of November into December, as well as things like Light Up BF. There's lots of opportunities for participation and volunteerism if anyone's interested in that. And I think that's all I have for this evening. And I guess we are going to skip the orders, bills, and warrants until the next time. And there's no need for an executive session, so I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And a second. Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, folks, and good night.
Record